So it's very much encouraging each other to have the relationships and the opportunities to spend time with our partners that we each want.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 269. We're Finn and Emma, and today we are talking with Lara and John. They have a wonderful, beautiful story. They've been together over 30 years and practicing non-monogamy, about 22 of them, which is pretty crazy. It's a long time.
Well, I think one of the things that they talk about in this that's really amazing about it is they didn't have any script. There weren't a lot of resources for them when they started. They didn't have words for this. They were just sort of doing it their own way, blazing a path.
Yeah.
And they talk about how they did that and the way that they've continued to do that. I think even when the words started to show up, polyamory, compersion, all of these different things, I don't know. I want to say they had a jump on the game, but it was,
they figured it out.
They did. And it wasn't flawless. And I think that's what's great about this conversation is they talk about that. And we're super grateful for their vulnerability and their willingness to come on and share their story.
Yes. And a quick reminder to check out Lara's books. She's going to talk about them in the interview, but the links to her books are in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Links to her website, which have all of her books.
Yes.
Yeah. And one other quick thing that I thought would be fun to share up front here is a little bit of a disclaimer. I think I made this note after listening to like the first 2 minutes as I was editing. And I think when we ask them to introduce themselves, John sort of starts to talk and Laura kind of jumps over top of him. And then John's a little bit quieter throughout this episode, and I think this is one of those ones where I feel this urge to give the disclaimer that what you hear is not what we saw. Right. And so part of what you're missing is John was actually not really supposed to be part of this conversation. He was a late ad.
Which is awesome.
Which is amazing, and we're so glad he was part of it. But he was also, I think, a transient member, maybe taking care of some dogs, doing some other odds and ends. And so there were chunks of this conversation where he was like in and out of it. And so again, it's an amazing conversation and he's such a valuable asset to it, but it's definitely not the situation where Lara is, making him be quiet while she dominates.
Not at all. Not at all.
And you'll get that anyway, but I thought I'd just share it up front and waste some more of your time. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you to me. You're welcoming me. Whatever. We don't know what we're doing here. It's a day. Happy New Year.
I was going to say, it is. Happy New Year. It's now 2023. Why didn't we say that at the beginning? But
because it's already been a year.
I know.
We're 3 days into it and it's been a year.
I know. But happy 2023, everyone. We hope you had a wonderful New Year's and are excited for this upcoming year.
And for this upcoming interview, which we're going to jump into right now for all of the premium subscribers. And for the rest of you, your non-premium subscribers, we have a couple of fun announcements. They're going to be just as fun as the last 3 minutes, guaranteed.
Yes. For anyone who's not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip the announcements up front here, but don't worry, you'll still get important upcoming dates announcements at the end. To sign up, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and you can sign up on the homepage for as little as $2 a year.
Cheap. And it's at the beginning of the year. What a great New Year's resolution, Emma.
We're encouraging them to skip all our announcements?
That's a terrible idea. Don't skip our announcements.
But
Why do we even offer the premium subscription if we don't want them to listen to our announcements?
Well, it's because it's a way to support the show.
Gotcha. Other ways to support the show that we absolutely love would be to join the community, which bonus, you get the premium subscription included.
You do.
So it's kind of a 2-for-1-er.
Yep.
So the community, we do monthly Q&As. We do monthly men's group and women's group calls that are open to anybody of any gender. And we also are starting some in-person events. We have one coming up on January 28th, the weekend of January 28th. We're doing a small get-together in the East Bay of San Francisco. And so if that seems like something you'd like to do, all of the information is posted in the community. And you also get ongoing chats and support with hundreds of people from around the globe, all day, every day, day and night, 24/7.
Yeah. And you can sign up for as little as $5 a month.
Yep. Links are at our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community tab. There is a short application, and you will be let in a jiffy if you're as awesome as you think you are.
Wow.
We'll think you're awesome. I mean, you're listening to this. You're still listening.
So that means
awesome.
that means you're awesome.
And patient.
Yeah, and patient. The other fun thing that you can always join, we do monthly virtual meet and greets. We just had one at the end of December and had a great turnout. It was a lot of fun. The next virtual meet and greet will be on January 19th. That's a Thursday night. And these are open to anyone. You just must be open-minded and respectful. You do not have to be part of the community to join.
No. And you know what was fun about the last one? We did a theme.
Yes.
And I wore a bedazzled witch's hat.
You did, because the theme was holiday potpourri.
And I just chose the theme of, actually, I didn't choose
I was going to say.
The outfit chose me.
Yes, because we were staying at a friend's house and we were borrowing outfits.
And it was a haunted witch's hat. And it was summoned to me. I conjured it.
We shouldn't tell them our secrets.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The last thing, speaking of secrets.
Oh, wait.
Oh, no.
We talked about themes for the last one, but we have not announced a theme for this January meet and greet.
We might need to take a month off from the themes.
That's true. I think we will this month, but that still means you still want to join. It's super fun no matter what.
It is. You can make your own theme.
To sign up, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the events tab.
We were talking about secrets before you interrupted me.
Yeah. And you're going to go move this into STD check, aren't you?
Wow, spoiler. So one thing that we don't keep secret, the transition, Emma, was one thing we don't keep secret is our favorite way to get tested for STIs, which is stdcheck.com, which you can get a 10-panel test for as little as $129 when you use the links on our website, which saves you $10 and supports the show financially, which we absolutely are grateful for. So thank you in advance. This is fast, this is easy, and this is the way Emma and I have been getting tested for STIs for years. It is not a secret. Nope. We make it very publicly known.
Sorry for ruining your transition.
It's okay. There's always next week.
Yep.
I'll come up with a new one.
Yep.
And so go check it out. Links are on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the resources tab or any single one of the podcast show notes under the podcast tab, where you'll see pictures of our guests, links to all of their work, and links to our favorite non-secret, stdcheck.com.
Non-secret's the important word there.
Exactly.
Also, a quick reminder, reach out to us, send us a voicemail, send us an email. We would love to hear from you if you want to be a guest on the podcast. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you just have any general feedback, questions, reach out to us.
And you don't even have to be an author like Lara or present like John.
That's true.
All right. Seriously, though, thank you, John.
And with that, we'll go talk to Lara and John. Oh, welcome to the podcast, Lara and John. We're excited to have you here today. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, pretty good. It's noon here, so midday, and it's been a nice sunny day for a winter, but
taking it easy on the Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Yep. You don't
Wonderful.
want to do too much. And we issue our first correction. Good afternoon.
Yes.
That'll be our last
true.
mistake of the day, we
Morning
promise.
here, afternoon there.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Love it. Well, do you mind introducing yourselves for us and for the listeners so that we get a little idea of who Lara and John are before we dig into all of the facets of your life that you don't share on places that aren't podcasts?
Go ahead, dear.
I'm Lara, and I've been married to John since 1992.
That's 30 years for those of you guys who don't know how to do math.
We don't. So thank you for translating.
We had only met about 9 months before we got married.
Yeah.
And we met in college through some common friends.
I tripped over her at a party.
And then he promptly asked my roommates, who is that person? And I didn't actually notice him at all. But I came back in from an internship, and he called the house looking for them. And So
they weren't there.
They weren't there. And I said, well, if you're really that bored, I'm going to the library to do research.
Do you want to come with me?
He jumped at it. I had no idea until much later the reason why he jumped at it in particular, but he jumped at it, and so technically our first date was a date to the library.
Love it. That's amazing. And for our younger viewers, when you said he called the house, houses used to have phones in them, and you would call those to try to reach people. Yeah.
Yes, right. The house phone, there was one on the wall.
That's amazing. Well, we are glad you two stayed together for 30 years and you're here today.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. What does your relationship dynamic look like today?
Well,
we are definitely polyamorous. I have a girlfriend. He has 2 or 3 at last count. We're hierarchical only in the sense that we sort of check in with each other. Can I go out, because our money is in a common account. Can I go out this weekend? Do we actually have the funds to do that? That sort of thing. Or, if you're going to be out, can I bring my girlfriend over?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So it's hierarchical only in sort of a check-in sense.
Well, because the two of you live together, so there's a
the nesting partner there. Sort of rules.
Mm-hmm.
But we've never thought about vetoing a partner. No. Or and if even saying no, I have to say this, because even saying no is kind of I don't feel like that's my place. So if he says, I want to go out on a date, he's going this weekend with one of his girlfriends to a big 3-day Yule festival. Yeah. And he was trying to figure out, could we work it? Could he swing it? Could he take the time off from work? And I'm like, just go. We'll figure it out,
Yeah.
So it's very much encouraging each other, to have the relationships and the opportunities to spend time with our partners that we each want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just as a correction.
Oh, yeah, sorry. We have
yeah, I'm down to 2 girlfriends because the other one pretty much I haven't heard from in months, and she sort of fell off everybody's radar. So,
yeah. Well, and I love and I want to dig into the hierarchy and how you handle it, because I think it's such a great conversation, because it's, and I know we'll get there, but the idea that you're asking for permission, in reality, what that is it's just common courtesy, right? Like, hey, we have a common goal in life. It's not like every weekend, I want to go on another cruise. I want to go on another cruise. And right. It's how can we co-create our life together? And I think that's amazing. So I'm excited to dig into that more.
Yeah.
But backing up, how far do we have to back up to where we introduced non-monogamy for the first time, and what, how, when, where?
Well, we
22 years.
Yeah. About 22 years ago. Go ahead. You tell the story better. So
okay. Well, it gets kind of personal. Many couples engage in fantasy, and we weren't into role play, but we had decided that we were willing, to sort of share your fantasy. If I wasn't here in the bed with you, what would you want? Who would you want here in the bed with you? If you wanted to add a third person, who would it be? Or, I had dated both men and women before we got married, but I didn't really at the time think of it as bisexuality. In the 1980s, that wasn't a thing. And I lived in a small town, and it didn't cross my mind to say that.
It was not spoken of back in the 1980s.
And it was like, so I had dated this girl, and then I had dated this guy. And then, so I thought of myself as a serial monogamist, and just sort of not really particular about who I was dating. But what propped up in the fantasies was frequently a female partner. And just for me or for us to share, or but the configurations crept into the fantasy. Then he's like, you can call yourself bisexual. It's a thing. And I'm like, oh. So at that point, we decided to try swinging.
Yeah.
Maybe I could get some of my, fantasies fulfilled and by doing some swinging. And we did that for a little while. We had, a little kid, and we just send him to the grandparents for the weekend so that we could go late night to the club and still like early morning and not have him around, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But probably within 2 or 3 years,
it got pretty tiresome.
It wasn't fulfilling. And so, we opened and, basically saying, well, you could go some social groups and find yourself a girlfriend. And so I did. And I tried, and so I had a girlfriend for a little while, and he was in a band. This is where the music comes in. He was in a band, and
so I kind of had a bunch of boyfriends at the same time, I guess.
Well,
it was almost like a romantic relationship sometimes, just the amount of time and energy I had to spend with these guys.
Yeah.
I imagine.
They brought in a female bassist, and she very much on a meeting of the minds and intellectual and the enthusiasm for music and stuff like that. And he and she got very close. And so we were open. And so I knew he was seeing her and stuff like that, but we hadn't had, this is one of the sort of the rough spots. We'd always been very conscientious that being courteous about, I'm going out, I'm doing this, I'm, doing that sort of thing. But we hadn't had the conversation of, well, I'm ready to become sexual with this person.
Mm-hmm.
And he went over to her place doing some jamming and getting in, and they got frisky and they had sex. And it was mostly because he hadn't come home when he said he was, that I started hunting for him. And so the frustration was, and so it was, well, we didn't cover this.
Well, also again, we were not expecting to do that. In fact, I had left my jacket behind at her place, and turned around and go get it. And again, she wasn't beckoning, come hither or anything like that. It was pretty much sort of a spur of the moment thing. Two very horny people. And immediately I knew that it's like I should have let Lara know. But of course, when you're actually in the moment, it's kind of hard to remember that.
Well, and let's be honest, right? This wasn't last year. It's not like you could just text her and say, "Hey, got a minute? Want to talk?" Right? Like you got to call the house phone and then hope she picks it up or leave her a message on the answering machine, right? And so, like the challenges were not. So no one's here judging you, John. And it sounds like you two were. What it sounds to me like is you two had opened the relationship. And not talk through all of the possibilities. And one can never talk through all of the possibilities because there's infinite possibilities of ways that we could do this.
Oh, yeah.
And there certainly weren't guidebooks on how to do it.
No.
You're learning as you go, for sure.
We didn't have language for it. It was the way we were doing life. And we were very happy, and our marriage was very happy, and our relationships with other people were very happy. And we were, but we didn't have, the language and the labels and things like that they use today. And so we were pretty much making up the rules as we went along. I think we got lucky in the sense that one of the reasons why we're still married after 30 years is the foundation of it has been communication.
Yeah. I mean,
from the beginning.
We talk things out. I mean, letting each other know about where we're going is again, sort of a communication thing. Just to make sure that it's like, okay, I'm going to be over here, and if something explodes in that neighborhood, you can feel worried about what's going on. And we talked through the incident afterwards, and again, we're still together, 20 something years after the event. So
yeah.
Yeah. I was curious about something you said, John, or both of you kind of said, was like the swinging. was exhausting and wore you two out. What was that experience like, and what was the transition from the swinging to
More serious,
opening and finding more serious partners like for you two?
Well, I'll go ahead and start on this one. We were putting forth a lot of energy with people that we did not know, just to sort of get some physical intimacy, but there was no emotional connection, which I found personally kind of disappointing, and there was no guarantee that we would ever see these people ever again, depending on whether we hooked up with a couple or with a single. And it became a lot of work for a very diminishing return. I mean, if I want to have sex, I can talk to Lara, and if Lara's not around, I've got two hands, for crying out loud. So it can always be arranged.
Right.
And so it just felt very, very empty, and a lot of effort to just not feel more fulfilled. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's really what it was. The community has gotten better. I mean, God, 20 years ago, it was you went to this one club, and the local sheriff's department just sort of turned the other way. But it literally was just a sex club. Even though it was built on the grounds of an old hotel, there wasn't going into the hotel rooms. It was playing the playrooms.
That's not where we were. Where we started.
Oh, that's right. Where we first started was essentially a converted house. It
was a place out in the middle of nowhere called Ranch 4 Play.
Which I don't. No, I think they.
No, it no longer exists anymore.
Okay.
So that's comfortable for talking about it, seeing that it no longer.
But it was out in the middle of the boonies. It would take us. I mean, it's still in the metro area, but it's like right on the edge of it, and so it would take us an hour to get there. You'd never really sure who was there, because of the secrecy of trying to get there. You never knew the guest list until you arrived. And so you created new relationships on the fly. And I'm not really good at that, actually. I require conversation. And so, yes, I would talk with somebody but it'd be an hour before I'd feel comfortable, going back into the sheds or going back into the rooms or even shifting to the hot tub.
Yeah.
And, and then, I'm actually not a very late night person, but even back then I could manage to, 11 o'clock, midnight and stuff like that. And while other people were revving up, I was
right
down. And, so yeah, it just, and because you couldn't, except for the hosts who had their own partners,
and we're fairly exclusive, as I recall.
And we're fairly exclusive. Yeah.
You never saw the same people twice.
You never really saw the same people twice. I think over the few years we went there, I may have seen the same husband and wife couple dancing in the dance hall bar, maybe 3 times.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
And they were also people we just did not get along with. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there was really nothing about the swinging scene
that worked.
You had to stay up later than you wanted. You didn't get to meet the types of people you wanted, and there wasn't a whole lot there for you. So what was the transition to opening up and maybe deeper connections? How did that go?
Well, the big thing was we started going to social groups rather than club-oriented groups. I joined the local LGBTQ center and started going to social groups with bi women. I actually started that one, and also lesbian women and bi women was one group, and it would be meet up at the center once a month, but every couple of weeks we'd go as a group to a local diner or a local eatery, or, and socialize. It wasn't alcohol centered. It wasn't dance club centered. I was already in my 30s. So it was, that I had left that scene essentially behind, and that didn't interest me anymore.
Were we ever part of that scene to begin with?
Well, there's that.
You were characters in that scene, John.
Yeah.
But it's, it was more social, and so I could start connecting with people. And in fact, that's where I found my first girlfriend, was in the combination lesbian and bi women's group, and she and I dated for close to a year. It didn't work out in the end, because it wasn't that. I mean, I didn't require, even then, I didn't require somebody to also have sex with John or anything like that.
Nor did I ask for it.
Right. But she became very uncomfortable just with the fact of his existence. I'd go over to her place, and she'd be, is he going to call and check on you? Are we going? And I'm like, he's never had to be, so I told him where we're going to be and what we're going to be doing, and that's that, but I don't deal well with paranoid people. And so it fell away after a while, because I just like, I've already established the parameters of things. So,
yeah.
And I'm trying to comfort you, make you understand, but it's beginning to be a lot of work for me and not a lot of pleasure.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, that's not worth it anymore.
So that relationship ended. I picked up a long distance relationship with somebody who'd begun reading my writing. And and she was a fan, and she was a beta reader, and we talked a lot about writing and stuff like that. And we did some sexting, and that sort of thing. So we've moved up, I guess, to like the 2007, 8. And so I had to, she was, very happy that John made me happy. She enjoyed what we were doing, and she got an opportunity to come on vacation. So she came here.
More than once.
Yeah. And
I see she wasn't local. Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's actually, she's several time zones away, and we're no longer dating, but I still keep in touch with her. So,
cool. So during this time, like during this period that you're exploring, was this when John was exploring as well, or was this before that had happened?
I had actually just joined a band, and was playing, spending a lot of time playing out in bars and just socializing with other people that way, just because of the nature of the beast. When you're playing in a cover band, you do a lot of bar gigs. And so, never explicitly tried to date anybody, from any of the bars that I played in. But definitely at least got flirted with and got to socially interact with people. So.
Yeah. So you're both having kind of your own fun, different
your own journey.
Yeah, your experiences.
Doing our own things. Yep.
Yeah. It was, again, it was because we didn't really have a language of it. It was just what we were doing. I don't remember being, very explicit with any of our circle of friends. I have a girlfriend. He has a girlfriend, or he's, I do remember thinking, we don't tell the parents this, but that, who discusses their sex life with their parents,
Right.
It was just sort of, it's never going to come up. Right.
Right.
My parents and his parents, they crossed paths with girlfriends. My mother visited one of the weekends my girlfriend was here. And she was, I'm picking her up from the airport or taking her to the airport, or I don't remember what it was, but she was in the car too. And, when we talk about the band, with his parents, he talk about the bassist by name and hanging out and stuff like that. But it never gets explicit again. You don't discuss, sort of, because the parents are asking, what you up to, okay. So what we're up to, we're socializing with people.
But past a certain point, a lot of that information falls in the Nunya file.
Yeah.
The Nunya business. And so,
that did get us in trouble later on, but that's
well, I'd love to hear about that. Was it trouble around maybe deeper feelings had developed and people didn't want to feel hidden, or what were the issues that came up with that?
No, the trouble that happened was really not that troublesome, if you ask me.
No, yeah,
because it was falling in the category of none of our business.
Yeah.
We had this was just a few years ago,
maybe about
2-3 years ago,
before the pandemic,
just before the pandemic. And we had joined one of the local poly groups, and we're doing their monthly cocktail meetup at a local bar. And our son had just very recently gotten himself a new girlfriend, and we had heard or seen nothing of her because of just where she lived and our son's schedule at the time. And so we go to the poly cocktail event and bump into him and
his new girlfriend
who's accompanying him. It's like, oh, you're here for the poly event. I think we better talk about this sometime later, because he didn't know we were polyamorous, and we didn't know that they were. And we spent the rest of that evening just sort of keeping distance to let him have his time with his friends and his girlfriend, and we could talk to our friends. And of course, there were some common members.
Friends. Yeah. I didn't know John was your John, and
oh man. So at this point, you said your son didn't know. He didn't of your history.
He knew that I was bisexual.
Yeah,
and but he didn't know that we were polyamorous. And so the big conversation was, let's make sure we're using our shared calendars. I'm sure every polyamorous person remembers the shared calendars. We have shared calendars. It's like, put your event on the shared calendar.
So that we don't also show up at that event.
Yes. I mean, the cocktails event is a very, very tame one.
Yeah. I mean, it's, it's got eats and it's got drinks and it's got conversation. It's, it's just sort of move around tables, meet new people. So it's very just social, but it was a little bit surprising for both of us.
But I mean, our poly group has, for example, had events at a local dungeon.
Yeah.
Usually stuff like,
Intro to Ropes.
Yeah, Intro to Ropes or Kink 101. And we've actually attended that with some friends. But yes, running into your own children at one of those events would be kind of awkward. So
I love it. Well, I think it's amazing that you ran into each other at an event and that you were both able to, or that you were all able to just sort of navigate it and say, well, we're going to go and play in this sandbox and you go play in that one. And we'll talk about this later, because we're all here and nobody needs to have their night rooms over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and one of the things we've had a chance. It's nice to be friends with your adult children, because it's given us a chance to do some reflection, and basically our positive sex behavior and relationship behavior enabled him to create positive sex positive relationships. As an adult, as a matter of fact, he and his girlfriend are current girlfriend are on their way over, they're going to do some work in his old room, fix the storage up, but then they're going to have Sunday dinner with us, and we'll talk about politics, and we'll talk about religion, and we'll talk about, poly things, and we'll talk about, but it's been really an opportunity to sort of see the proof of our parenting. With the partner who says, he's totally trustworthy. He's open. He's honest. He's thoughtful. He's caring.
Gets along with his metamors.
Yeah, gets along with metamors. That's it. Yeah. It's just
what a great opportunity, to be able to have that relationship, to be able to share all of who you are with your kids. I mean, obviously, yes, not going to the clubs together, but to share, you don't have to hide, right? You can put on there, going to the dungeon, and they're like, well, we're not going to the dungeon, right? To have that level of openness and honesty with your kids, I imagine that creates, as you said, to have an established and continuing relationship with your kids as they grow older. I think there's so many parents that are like, yeah, our kids are doing their thing and we're doing our thing, and we don't keep in touch like we used to. But you two have now found a common vein as adults that you both can talk about and share about. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah. It makes me glow every time I think about it. But
yeah, it is amazing. Kind of on that thread, are you open with anyone else in your life, or has it been kept pretty quiet between the two of you?
Because of the nature of my work and the political sensitivity thereof, I can't really, talk about my outside relationships because I could get persecuted pretty much. And I mean, I know I went to college with a bunch of furries, for crying out loud, and I've been their security guard for 20 years of their local convention, just being large and grumpy and making sure people didn't break things. And I couldn't share that because, again, that could have cost me some sort of discipline at work. So I keep it very, very, very low key, just because I can't let it get out. And of course, certainly with our parents, very conservative on both sides, it's very difficult for us to say, "Hey, we're seeing other people." So if you happen to see them at dinner, and interestingly, we were hosting our son and one of his partners, not his primary girlfriend, but one of his partners, when my sister-in-law, her sister, was down here for, I don't remember what your sister was down here before, but, and we said nothing about it aside from that this is Z's friend.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I love it.
We've pretty much closed our social circles to other to being only among other poly people.
Yeah.
We meet newbies at meetups all the time, but again, it's part of the poly group. So sort of they already know what they're getting into, kind of thing in that sense, or they're asking questions about it. But I also believe in the if you're going to meet somebody from work at a club, it's very much like the way we met our son. Oh, you're here for the same thing. Well, that's going to be between us because we both know what's at stake if anybody else finds out.
Yeah.
And you would feel so resentful if, say, they went back to work and started talking about it and mentioning you and stuff like that. But sort of being aware of that. So, it's a meme or something, where two conservative guys, both meet up at both encounter each other at a sex club, and they're like, "Well, I could tell the public about you." Yes, but you'd have to tell them you were here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mutually assured destruction is a powerful tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, going back to, of course, opening up to some of my even some of my long-term friends. Two of my very oldest friends became Anglican priests. I don't think they would accept that sort of radicalism.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
It's unfortunate, but I can understand why. Like, yeah, you pick and choose your battles for sure.
Yeah. And when we're out, when we're being social, that's, so we choose to socialize. It's sort of like after we discovered our son was in it, we went around to see if we could help him, because he actually asked us. It would be really helpful to talk to somebody else who had grown up with poly parents.
Yep.
And so it turned out an adult friend of ours was a daughter of poly parents. And so she talked with him for a little while, and he's talked with her and a couple of other people. And so it was kind of neat to be able to have that networking, to be able to say, here's somebody you can talk to about the unique circumstances, the unique perspective.
Yeah. That is super cool.
But my writing is what is really when we started putting terms and labels together. I was my first couple of novels were kind of straight up women loving women novels, and they left respective partners to do that. And then I started writing this next group, and I'm like, they're not swingers, but they're not exclusive. And they're not interested in leaving a partner for, what is that called? And I started researching around, and that was in 2015. So finally the language was out there. So I was able to, Google it. And first, of course, ran across menage and threesomes, and then the word throuple came up, and then and it sort of expanded in type of polyamory, type of ethical non-monogamy. And we were like, oh, this is what we've been doing.
Yeah. We were able to put names on things that we were doing.
Right, which is powerful to know that you're not, I mean, you knew you weren't alone, but to know that there's a bigger community out there that you're part of in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's when we started going to the poly meetups, and I started listening to podcasts, and I started reading books, and because I was working on my own story, and I finally got my story done. And
which it's interesting, that in the history of your relationship, it hasn't been that long since you got like that language. Like there was many years there without it, with you just doing your
trailblazers.
Thing. Yeah,
I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and that you two are still here. You didn't have every book under the sun. You didn't have 1,000 podcasts. You came at it in a way that the two of you could support one another in your lives, living the way you want to live and loving the way you wanted to love. And you're here. And then 70% of the way through your journey, you're like, oh, look at that. There's a word for what we're doing. and there's other people doing what we're doing. That's amazing.
Yeah. And of course, prior to us learning more about polyamory, I'd heard the word because a cousin of mine had been living a polyamorous life. And unfortunately, she had been married and had a boyfriend, and the marriage did not work out. And then the ex-husband murdered the boyfriend. Jesus. And so that sort of puts a big stigma on it in my family. So, again, that's one of those reasons why I can't really talk to my parents about it.
Wow. That's an intense story.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you can see just how bad it can go, it's, it's like, how have we managed to not have this happen? Well, one, we don't, challenge each other about our relationships, but it was like, how is that possible? That we could have avoided all of those problems. And we keep coming back to, because we talk. When we were dating, we would talk, and we talked, till 3:00 in the morning. about everything.
And for that matter, with one of the things that I've enjoyed about my partners is that pretty much we started off just talking and talking and talking. So sometimes we would be sitting up till the wee hours of the morning, usually long after whatever establishment we'd been meeting at was closed, just standing out in the parking lot, blah, 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 blah. So it was communication.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's amazing about that and just thinking through that a little bit is that's going to be the foundation for any relationship, regardless of whether you have one partner or 7. And there was, again, back to the point that like you weren't reading books or listening to podcasts that were saying polyamory is harder than monogamy. You were just doing life in a respectful, courteous way to one another. And that would probably have served you in a monogamous relationship as well as it served you in a non-monogamous one in the same way. Like the foundation is what you built on. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I listen sometimes to we've been married 54 years or, somebody who's just lost their spouse. We were married 73 years. I saw her across the hall at the high school dance, and I immediately knew I loved her. And 73 years later, she passed away in my arms, that sort of thing. And people ask, how did you make it last so long? Well, we didn't get up in each other's face all the time.
Yeah.
She had her things. I had my things. We came together. We built family. There's something to be said about that, regardless of, they were monogamous, clearly, and that type of thing. But it didn't sort of like earth-shatteringly. The people who say they're joined at the hip, I always worry about that.
Yeah. Well, you just need to be 2 autonomous people and co-create together. But, and find that partnership. And because when you get too enmeshed, like it just doesn't, often people can lose their sense of identity and then go down that path. So,
well, but the mainstream societal message is you've got to find the one, and that one's going to do everything for you, and therefore you would do everything together. And even I would just interject, even for us as 2 people who have never really believed or ascribed to that notion, we love doing so many of the same things that for so long, we were those people who were always up in each other's biz because we just loved doing those things and we loved doing them with our best friend. And so it's been more of a conscientious, I don't want to say decoupling, but separating of like, I'm going to go do this thing and you're going to go do that thing. And we'll both be okay. And we'll come back together and we'll like, cause we're so used to like, we love doing shit together. And now it's
we
an
absolutely
effort to do. Yeah.
Early on in our marriage, we would just literally point the car in a direction and just drive. And he's driving, I'm in the passenger seat, and we are talking. And, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, we're at the coast because of where we are. Any direction in about an hour and a half, you're in the coast. And then we'd go wander around the town and we'd find a festival or we'd find a kitschy little store and we'd just wander through it. And we were still just talking.
Finding beachside restaurants, for example, is always a wonderful thing to do.
A favorite pastime of mine, I must admit.
We have been in some places. We went to a restaurant in the middle of basically a walkout. Like 90% of their staff walked out the door while we were in the restaurant.
That was not one of the good experiences, though.
It becomes one of those stories we can tell because we were there, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Our honeymoon, we went out to, this place, and it was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was not a good place. So we were like, well, what are we going to do? Well, we'll pool our money and we'll get a hotel room. And so we got a different place to stay. And 3 days later, we came back to our regular lives and went on. But it was the problem solving and the talking about it and the just sort of being comfortable with dealing with sort of with whatever came along
Yep.
And that really cemented things for us.
Yeah. It's all about the adventure.
Yeah.
It is. Absolutely.
Yeah. And finding that balance of having autonomy and your individuality in your life, but having that fun and adventure together and nurturing that relationship and connection as well. Like there needs to be both.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How have you two seen one another grow over the last 30 years? Well, let's call it 20 years of non-monogamy. You had about a 10-year foundation-ish, 8-year foundation. How have you seen yourselves grow? And it doesn't necessarily have to be because of the non-monogamy, but I'm just curious, like, how you two have seen over the years.
I've found that I am much more conscientious and aware of other people's feelings. I would agree with that. Because of how you have to live your life when you're living as polyamorous.
He was pretty aware of that beforehand, but it's become more intentional.
Yes.
Another thing that I think is we've also encouraged each other to pursue things. He actually didn't pick up a guitar until we were married. So picking the guitar, learning the guitar, playing the guitar, joining the bands, these were not things he had done before. And he's enriched his life by being able to really get into the music that he clearly so passionate about. It wasn't something he did before we were married. Yep. So and I see the music and the growth there as something he took out into the rest of his life. He's trying new things. He's doing other things. He's a Taurus. He is such a Taurus. I am planted here. I am doing this. He gets very comfortable, and he says, "This is my spot, and this is my place." But now he reaches out, and his spot has become larger. He becomes more comfortable in more situations, and that's been a big change in him.
I love it.
Just as an example, in 2 weeks, I'm going out with a partner to a big Yule celebration with a whole bunch of pagans. That again, this is well outside my experience, so it's going to be interesting watching the whole thing. And
I love it. That's amazing. And John, how about what have you seen for Lara in terms of how you've watched her sort of evolve and bloom over the years?
Well, I think the word bloom definitely is an apt one, due to the fact that for so long she was very introverted and very, very reticent to just express herself outside of the house. And with her, I've been encouraging her writing. Although
honestly, I wouldn't have gotten back to it without him. I had a pretty stifling childhood where it came to my writing,
where it was very discouraged,
so I took a 10-year hiatus from it, basically 15 years, and did all the things I was supposed to do, and then sort of part of I'm going through all of these changes as we're opening up and swinging and stuff like that. And so I'm writing to process it. And it's like, you should share this with people.
Now, granted, early on when she was doing lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of writing, it got on my nerves a little bit, but we communicated about that. And sort of figured out how to make things work. And of course, because she has now, of course, been had partners and been out and about. When we got doing social stuff, sometimes I will just sit and sip at my drink and watch her interacting with other people, and just watching just the amount of energy and joy that she's having, and I'm just enjoying watching her be happy. And in our poly community here in our city, several of our long-time friends also see that, and we sort of get together and sort of cheer her on from the sidelines. So she's become more open, more communicative, more self-assured. I mean, of course, I've always been, kind of overconfident myself, but again, even I have been a lot more self-assured because of the fact that I'm navigating things and keeping the lines of communication open, so that if I run into issues, I can say, "Okay, I need some advice. I need some help."
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I'm just listening to the journey you two have been on. Is I don't know. The word inspirational comes up because it's just like I don't know. I feel like it's been a flawless journey, and I have to imagine there's been some flaws, but it's beautiful.
I was going to ask is, you touched on one or two of the challenges, and do you have other points that come up that have been hard? Not that your journey has not been an inspiration. I don't mean to take that away from you at all.
I mean, the difficulty with the first girlfriend, because that one upset me, and so I was not a good partner to anybody, for a little while as I processed that, and so he kind of pulled me back into line. But the one sort of before we all got started, it was a weird thing. But sometimes when I get overstimulated and I get ready to shut down, I get really unable to interact with people, and I left a party early just to walk out in the parking lot, sort of take a few deep breaths and stuff like that. And I upset him because I didn't communicate that I was leaving.
And you weren't answering your phone.
And I wasn't answering my phone.
All right. And so, we've had miscommunications and stuff like that. But I guess because of the foundation of communicating, we also have always, said, well, okay, clearly the communication channels were not working. Let's sit down and have some good communication for a moment, and we had arguments when we were young and newly married and stuff like that, that were not the right kind of arguing. And now you get a chance to sort of look back 100, retrospect 2020, and you realize I wasn't a good arguer, but we worked those things out. We figured out how to communicate. We got better at it. And so now an awful lot of, what most people might think of as a real problem, gets communication. That was one of the things I had to, because if I wrote the relationship that my husband and I have and how we did into the story, people would say there's no way it happened that way. That's not real.
That's not real. Yeah. And so I had to go go investigate, how can relationships break down through lack of communication, poor communication, and things like that, in order to put realistic obstacles in my throuple's way.
But it sounds like you need to write the book of, this is real, and this is how we did it because it is real. It sounds like it was almost too good. I mean, not to say again that there were no conflicts, but that you worked through them.
Yeah, we worked through those things, and I think that's the big difference is that, because that's the other thing is I also think you have to be willing to work through those problems.
And actually, I think that's one of the things that sort of makes a lot of monogamous relationships fall apart, where they run into problems, but they're not willing to push their way to figure out what's broken and fix it. And so then they just drift apart and to even let it get to the point where it's broken. True. I mean, so often we would look at,
I've never quite figured out. I have some monogamous friends, and go out and hang out, and I'm hanging out with the wives, and he's hanging out with the husbands. And the wives are saying negative things about how he doesn't clean up around the house, or I was raising the kids and he was doing his thing. And he said, "Why didn't you ever mention this to him?" And says, "Well, I couldn't possibly. He would get so angry at me." Then why are you with him if you get that angry that you couldn't feel like you could express yourself?
Yeah.
And it would circle on it. And so I just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a great point that people, and we all do it, right? We sweep hard shit under the rug and think, well, that'll go away. Well, and then we do it 100 times, and the rug gets more and more.
It's not even that'll go away. It simmers and stews and creates a cancer, because when it's small, it's almost always fixable. It's when you've let it get big and build up and stuff like that it's not fixable. And that's just. So, I find myself, that was probably another reason why I spend more time around my poly friends than I do around our old monogamous friends. I mean, I still have them and I still communicate with them, text with them, that sort of thing. But I feel like I have to shut down so much of, that you really don't need to be going through that kind of problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you would just open your mouth and say something.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. Thank you both for everything that you shared. There's so many more questions we could ask you, but for the sake of time, we'll not ask you questions for the next 3 hours.
But I love the thread that, like, so much of it comes back to communication, talking
over and over and over again.
Understanding, not get up in each other's grill, like be a little forgiving or a lot forgiving sometimes, move through, right? There's so much there. I love the conversation. I love too the fact that you two just sort of moved through this world without a lighthouse to follow. You just did your thing. You treated each other with love and kindness and respect. And here you are 30 years later, looking at another 30 years of it. And it's fantastic.
I mean, we sort of grew up during that latchkey kid era where we pretty much came home and had to fend for ourselves. So
figuring out our own problems is sort of built into our DNA.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much like, I got to do this. Well, shit, I might as well do it myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, is there anything that we haven't brought up? And we want to give you a chance, Lara, to talk about your books, where people can find them. And there will be links in the show notes, but tell us a little bit about your books. And if there's anything else that we haven't touched on that you two need to scream out into the podcastiverse.
You can find my books. My website's larazbooks.com. And the poly books are We Three and We Fit, which just came out in November. And they're fiction, but an awful lot of the transition from swinging to poly, because really the first book is they're all swingers. That's the negotiation that they've made. They're all swingers. But towards the end of the book, there's a clear shift, and they're not really sure where that shift is going to take them. And it scares one of the characters because she's like not into commitment. And so it's like, how is this going to work? And then the second book really explores it as a polyamorous relationship. And so in order to create that transition, I dug back through my own experiences, my own feelings, my own processes. And then I fictionalized it for these characters and did the things that they would do or not do and that sort of thing. So again, that's We Three. The subtitle of that is 1 and 1 and 1 makes 3.
I love it. Well, links.
And then the newest one is
We Fit, subtitle We Three Together. And it's the second book and follows the same 3 people. And they're both at larazbooks.com.
Perfect.
Awesome.
We will put links in the show notes so people can find them super easily. Go check it out. It's amazing.
We're super excited about them.
Yeah,
so thank you for all of your hard work and for sharing everything today, both of you. As Finn was about to say, is there anything else before we let you go?
I really want to say thank you to both you and the podcast for having us on.
Yeah.
When we got the opportunity, it was really an opportunity to sort of do a check-in on our relationship. We sort of double checked with each other. Are you cool with this? Are you cool with this? And, sometimes we get into a conversation and we'll talk about the beginning of our relationship and like, I don't remember it that way. So we sort of compared notes and made sure we still remembered it all the same. It was, it was an opportunity for a check-in on our own relationship. And so we really appreciated the opportunity to do that.
Love it. Well, we'll take credit for the next 30 years then.
Okay.
assuming they're good years. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you both. It was wonderful chatting, and I hope it's not the last time our paths cross. So, yeah.
I agree.
Well, have a wonderful, warm, sunny day, and we will talk. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, we'll talk again.
Later.
Take care.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Lara and John. For
extra thank you to John from me.
Thank you both for coming on and sharing your story. And just for being vulnerable and open with us. We loved the conversation. So thank you again.
Yeah, it was amazing. And we have a ton of gratitude to both of you. So thank you.
Few quick reminders. Our next virtual meet and greet is January 19th. That's a Thursday night. You can sign up on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. These are open to anyone. You just must be open-minded and respectful. Also, we have for our community. So if you're interested in being part of the community, it's only $5 a month. You get a lot of awesome things to be part of the community, including you can join us for an in-person weekend on January 28th in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we're excited. We're pulling that together, and we're hoping to do more in the future too if you can't make this one.
Real quick though, there is no cost to join this event. It is basically a la carte. We're not upcharging anything. We're going to probably do dinner and drinks one night. Those are on you. We are hopefully doing a yoga class. The cost will just be passed through. And we're doing a fun private pole dance class with Amy from episode 188, I believe. And that, again, just passing the cost through. So we are not profiting off of this. We just wanted to throw that out there for anybody who's like, ooh, I want to be a part of that. How much is that going to cost? It will cost the cost of dinner and drinks and roughly $30 for pole dancing and possibly a little bit of money for yoga.
If you want to join those things.
And hotels if you want to stay in a hotel. Bring a tent if you want to sleep on the streets. We encourage you to be as frugal as you want.
Yes. Couch surfing. Yeah. Do it all. Anyway, we are excited for all of the upcoming events in January. And I don't think we have any other announcements. Next week,
we have an announcement about next week's episode.
Next week is an episode with
Rose.
Yes.
So for anybody who is a longtime listener of the show or a brand new listener of the show, you're going to hear a little bit of things that maybe you've heard about before.
Yes.
Like the Yale Orgy Club.
Exactly.
So maybe things you could do if you wanted to do some research of your own. You could go back and listen to a few episodes, like episode 141 with Zach. Or there's an episode somewhere in like the 190s maybe
with
about
Ryan.
Ryan wasn't part of the orgy group.
I have the wrong person.
I think 181 was episode G with G.
Yes.
And there's an episode about rethinking orgies.
Yes.
And all of those episodes talk about the Yale Orgy Club. And Rose, well, spoiler alert, Rose is one of the organizers of the current Yale Orgy Club.
Correct. And so links, so you don't have to remember all of those numbers.
None of those things you have to remember.
Finn just threw out there. There's links to those episodes in the show notes from today's episode.
With accurate numbers.
Because we might be a little off.
It's unlikely, but it's possible.
It's possible.
And also, regardless of whether you're into Yale orgies or not, the episode doesn't really focus on that. It is a fan-fucking-tastic conversation, and it is beautiful.
It is. Rose is amazing.
Yeah. So, with that, I guess, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. Here's to 2023.
Let's do it.
We're excited.
Let's do it. We'll see you all around, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.